Hello to all my faithful viewers in TV land. This is Senior Issues, etc. I'm your host, Vita Verdon. It's a cold day in the northwest suburbs, but we're nice and cozy in here, so I have a nice and cozy show. Hurry up, get your coffee, come and sit down, have a paper and pencil. I got information for you. And now the guest I have on the show today his name is Chris Danner. He's an artist, and he's also the corresponding secretary for the Art League of Lake County, Illinois. So we got some interesting information, and information that's going to help you grow. So let's get right to it. Chris, it's so nice to have you here on the show. We want to hear, well, I know what they want out there. They want to hear a little bit about you, and they want to hear what you have to say. So just look right into that camera and tell them about yourself.
Well, first I want to look at you and say it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, I'm an engineer, and yet now it seems I'm speaking about the Lake County Art League. I'm an engineer who's become an artist, and I want to explain that process a little bit, because in the end, this is all about my explaining to seniors that late in life you can embrace something like becoming an artist, and you can enjoy it, and it's exciting stuff. So when I turned around, actually when I was in high school and trying to decide what I wanted to do for a living, I thought that I would go into the arts because I liked to draw. I was good at it. Got into college, and I found that no one was going to tell me that I was a lousy artist. I realized that I really needed to take a safer route, so I became an engineer instead, and I had a great time. I've had an enjoyable career as a living. But in my mid-50s, I got to thinking about, I got to watching my father. After a successful career, he had become very narrow. You could hardly talk to the man anymore without him trying to relate everything to the business world. And I realized that if I wanted to be an artist, if I wanted to not fall into that trap, I needed to embrace some other part of my personality. And it took me about 2 seconds to say, now is the time for me to go back to my art. And it was a good time. Our kids were grown, starting families of their own. I could see retirement down the road. I could see that I would have time to do this and travels to do this. So I started once again drawing in earnest. And I joined the Lake County Art League. And how that happened is a story that I think is relevant to where we're going. But I need to talk a little bit more about myself. One of the big surprises is that as an engineer, I had very specific professional skills, and those turned out to be valuable to the Art League. And that was very gratifying to me because I was asking for a lot from the Art League I could give in return. So 15 years later, I'm what they call the corresponding secretary, which puts me right at the center of everything. I'm talking to all these to our 100 members at one time or another, all the time.
You know, I'm going to dip in and out of what you're saying.
And you should.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I'd like you to tell our audience is when the Art League started. That surprised me.
Well, it started a long time ago. In the depths of the Depression, 1934, the Art League was formed by a group of women in Waukegan. And I'll speak about this more in the future, but at that point in time, they made a choice which I thought was very insightful. They said that our purpose for being an art league is to create more interest in art in Lake County in the state of Illinois and to develop a higher appreciation of visual art. That doesn't sound all that interesting, but it's what it doesn't say. It doesn't say anything about promoting the sales of our artists. That's a huge difference. To this day, we are about promoting art in Lake County and not necessarily about promoting our artists. We're about growing artists, and that's
That's what you're talking about.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Okay, so 15 years later, I'm the corresponding secretary. I'm also in charge of producing 2 membership shows that we do every year. And other people have taken the same path. The man behind the camera here, Ali Al-Bakri, took a similar path. He was once the president of the Art League, and now he's in charge of our publicity. You ask a lot, but you have to provide a lot to the Art League as well. So I want to talk in detail about my journey as an artist, because it'll help me later on explain in more detail how the Art League functions to help us as individuals. There's a thing called an artistic journey. If you've ever been in the arts, and there's a lot of arts, you begin to realize that you've jumped down the rabbit hole. Everything's a little bit different and a little bit exciting, and pretty soon you begin to realize that this looks to be very, very promising. So the first thing I did, it sounds silly now, but instead of drawing with pencil, I started drawing with ink because I wanted my work to be spontaneous, because spontaneous stuff was more interesting. And then I experimented with a thing called water-soluble ink, which means if you take a brush and you tap it onto a wet brush and you tap it on to the line work, suddenly the ink starts flowing out onto the paper and you're creating a wash onto the paper. Well, that turns out to be exactly how watercolor works. And so inadvertently, I had stumbled into one of the key processes of making art. That simple little change just opened up a whole new dimension almost immediately on the art that I was doing. Suddenly, it became exciting to look at in ways I never expected before.
That's a technique then, isn't it?
It's a technique that I stumbled onto.
Yeah.
And art is a lot like that. You stumble into happy accidents. So I started playing with watercolor, and what I've found is that a lot of people don't like to do watercolor because it's so unpredictable. Well, that's exactly what I wanted. I wanted to kind of live on the edge. I like the happy accidents. That's what made the work exciting. It made it spontaneous, and I found myself creating effects that I didn't know how to do, yet there they were. So, and this is not a new story. A lot of people go these routes. So that's when I joined the Art League. I joined the Art League because I wanted to see how other people grew in their arts. It was about observing and growing.
So you're displaying your process right now.
I displaying how, not my process, I'm just explaining how I grew to this
But that's
point.
part of your process.
Oh, you want to talk process? I'll tell you about how to make a painting. You don't want to go there.
No, I just want to clarify this for our viewers.
Okay. Yes,
Okay.
it was process. All right. So I'm observing and I'm watching these people, and they're very interesting. And during the meetings, I'd see somebody over there sketching, drawing the person making the meeting. I was a lot like these people, and I started calling myself an artist, which that was a big step for me, because I was still an engineer. But if somebody asked me what I did, well, I'm an engineer, but on weekends I'm an artist. Well, I'm not an engineer anymore, so I'm nothing more than an artist, and I like that title. I'm typical of about a third of the Art League. In other words, there's a lot of people just like me. They could draw and dabble with art when they were young, and then they had a career, and then later on in life they went back to their art. That's very common. Another third of the Art League are men and women who went to art school, where they had professional training that I've never had, and yet here they were, my peers, sharing their knowledge with me as I shared the things I was learning with them, and it was as exciting as I expected it to be. But the final third are a lot of the people who drift in and out of the Art League, they find it a comfortable place where they can experiment. There's an openness towards this. You grow, and people notice your growth, and they pat you on the back. You share what you're doing with them. They share what they're doing with you. So I had, not being particularly clever, had stumbled onto an art league that exactly met my need. Now, Lake County has, I guess, about 8 art leagues. They're scattered all over the place. So if you want to find yourself an art league, you have to do a little research. I would suggest that you go to an art supply store. And there are not a lot of those, but there are big ones like Dick Blick in Schaumburg. And they're easy to find. They're in the yellow pages. And you talk to those people. And you say, I live in such and such a town. Is there an art league near me? And they love to say, oh, yeah, there's a bunch.
Would you give it the website?
The website for the Lake County Art League is lcal.org. And there's a place in there where if you have questions of our art league, you can.
Is there a telephone number also?
No, there's not.
Just the website.
But I'll give you my phone number.
Okay.
Because you can call me directly. But
okay.
If on the website you enter something, that goes to my computer.
Okay. Well, we're going to get the telephone number when we come back, but right now we're going to go to Vita's Pearls of Wisdom. Now, this is the time of the year. The thing I would like to talk about today is the celebration of Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday. And I wanted to mention a couple things about him because I'm most impressed with what this one person did. He was, in his overcoming pledges and vision that he had, 13 years. That's a very short period of time. And in this short period of time, what this one man did, one person, this is his passion, this is his creative outlet. He saw that 2 laws were changed. And they also, what has come about is he is the only person outside of the presidents of the United States that there is a special day dedicated to him, and that is impressive. The reason that I'm emphasizing this is that each one of us has a gift that I believe comes from above, a gift in us, and that we never know what the impact of that gift is on the society around us. We grow where we're planted. Unless we get in there and decide, well, this is how I am, this is where my gift is, and this is how I'm going to use it. Now, this is what one person did. And remember, this wasn't over a 50-year span. This was in a 13-year period, how he changed our world, how he changed our land, and how he changed the laws in the land. And at that time, it was Lyndon Johnson was the president, that the law was changed. So that is most impressive. Now, the other thing is that I have about 120 shows online. If you go online, seniorissues.org, and look up, there's a lot of information there for you. One more thing, I'm still looking for a young person. It's a paid job, $25 an hour, to help me with some computer work. I want a young person. They said, if you want to know how to do something on the computer, get an 8-year-old. Well, I'm not looking for an 8-year-old, but I'm looking for somebody young. Okay, I have things that are not real complicated, but they're complicated for me. I'm 86 years old, and I do need help in this area. Now, I know that the winter is long, but if you go online and if you see all the help is there for you, you can still get help with your insurance if you want to see ship, if you go to any library and you ask them, now, what area is my ship representative? I know in the Waukegan area, it is on Park Place on Lewis Avenue. There's a ship representative. But if you go to any library, there's one within a 5-mile radius of your library. So you can always get help on changes on your insurance, because I know that that's a big hassle. So with that, stay warm, stay cozy. We love you all, and thank you for being so faithful to the show. We're going to get right back to Chris right now. Okay, now you can give your telephone number right into that camera.
847-340-0275.
Okay, give it again.
847-340-0275. And my email address is Chris E as in Edward Tanner at sbcglobal.net. Please don't hesitate to correspond with me. That's my job.
Okay, so now we've gone into a part of your journey, right?
Well, but I want to go back to the gift, because a couple years ago we did a show. About 25 of our members participated in it. The theme of the show is, why do we paint? Why do we make art?
Why do we?
Why do we make art? And I didn't have answers. But we put on the wall a person's art, and then next to the art was their explanation as to why they paint. And the theme that recurred again and again was that they wanted to share what they could do. To say it in the terms you just talked about, they have a gift.
Right.
Just being able to draw, I always took that for granted until I realized a lot of people can't draw. And my being able to draw opened doors for me, and it took me into art, where I found that I had a more substantial gift than I realized. So yes, everyone's born with a gift.
Everybody is born with a gift.
And sometimes
that's how we're created.
And sometimes it's late in life when you find out what your gift is, and that's okay.
That's right.
Okay, now, that aside, the purpose of the Art League is not about promoting sales. This Art League is not about promoting sales. It's about growing, helping you grow and gain skills and knowledge.
So it's about the personage.
It's about the personage. We talk art. And almost all conversations, and they're fun. All right, now, details. We meet one Monday night each month at a bank in Grayslake, where a demonstration is given. It's usually 2 40-minute segments. So you learn by watching this person. You also learn by hearing what the questions are from the other artists. Our Art League includes artists in all kinds of media. We have watercolor, we have oil, lots of oil painters. We have a couple of photographers, gifted photographers, who produce photography that is not just a photograph, it's art. And how they do that is clever, and it's illuminating. So as a watercolorist, I learn by watching what they do. Watching how they do this. I learn by watching how an oil painter gets effects that I can't get. But I see the value of those effects, and I realize I have to strive to do some of those things. We have 2 membership shows during the year, where over time, about half of our members enter these shows. Any one show will have fully a third of our members. This is a big deal. Everyone likes this. Their art is up for 2 weeks, and then we conclude the show with a critique, where we bring in a professional artist, and that professional artist goes over each painting and explains what's good about it, what's bad about it. He or she, they're gentle, but in the end, you see 30 to 40 critiques in a short period of time, and you learn from this. Not only that, you'll learn from the comments of other artists who take you to one side and say, Chris, I really like that painting you did of that automobile. You're getting better at this stuff. You feel like $1 million when that happens. So those membership shows kind of set us apart from other art leagues. At the conclusion of the conclusion of the calendar year in the fall, we always have a big gathering at a farm in Antioch. Actually, it's just north of Gurnee, where we do what's called a plein air event, and typically that's 30 to 60 people show up for this thing, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that the hostess is a very good cook. We have just now started a legacy art storage project where if once a person has passed away, his family doesn't know, his or her family doesn't know what to do with all of this art. They don't have a way of storing it. We can take title to that art, we can store it properly, and see to it that it's displayed from time to time around the county. We are now being drawn into a project in Waukegan whereby notable people within Waukegan are going to pair with an artist from our art league, and that the two of them are, well, the artist is really a mentor. This notable person is going to create a decent piece of art, and all of this art is going to be sold at a Gala Waukegan event as a way of helping publicize art in Waukegan. All right. The other thing I want to emphasize at this point, though, is that we're associated in what we do with the arts. It's not just the visual arts. The music, dance, and theater are close cousins to what we do. And that's important to us because art is about entertainment. It's about reaching out to people. It's about capturing their attention. It's about drawing them in. It's about maybe changing the way they look at things. That's what the arts is about, and we're just one of many. So that brings us to the fact that we do a lot of work with Jack Benny Center for the Arts in Waukegan and with David Adler Music and Arts Center in Libertyville. We're the arts. Now, your artistic journey as a senior is interesting because you hesitate because you're elderly. There's so much to do to learn, and it's actually not quite that way it is. It's a big help if you can learn, if you draw already. I hope you can draw. I hope that's making what's created your interest. But once you start your journey, the first thing that happens is you begin to see. You begin to understand what it is that resonates with you when you see it visually. You begin to see beauty in this world that you've never noticed before, especially if you're doing things like portraiture.
Well, I'd like to stop you right here
Yeah.
and ask a question. I'm putting myself as one of the viewers. We're looking, what if somebody out there is watching this right now and they don't particularly know what their gift is? Do you think if they would join or come to a couple meetings, that would inspire them?
Absolutely. That's an excellent idea.
You see, because there's a lot of people that they feel that they want to, but they're not really sure the direction to take.
I think that's very insightful because, yes, and all of these art leagues will have open meetings. They want people to come. They want people to see what's going on. They want to let people explore their own potential.
No, well, when is your particular meeting? Would you announce that? That's once a month?
Well, it's once a month. You have to go to the website to tell you where it's
Well,
at.
say the website again.
The website is lcal.org.
Okay.
All right? All right, now, so what happens is that you start to learn how to make art. You read, you attend demos, you go to workshops, you experiment, like I did with my pen. You visit the Art Institute of Chicago, which is an amazing place. And
Well, that's all well and good when you know the direction, but a lot of people, I think the hardest thing is to start. So, I mean, I want to inspire people that haven't started to start.
And you do that. It depends on how bold you are. You can just make sketches and nobody pays any attention, or you can actually make art and submit it into one of the membership shows. Or you can show it to other artists and you can talk about that art. At our meetings, we have a competition whereby people can bring up art and they lay it across the wall in a roll at the foot of a wall, and you can see what art they did, and you can talk about it. And who's ever creating that demo will pick one or two and say, these are the best that are out there right now.
See, the thing I'd like to emphasize is I like to emphasize the fact that artists just aren't this little grouping of people. Everybody has a gift. You may have to search for it a little stronger, but everybody has some type of a gift, a creative gift on them, and that it isn't reserved just for a certain group, that it's open to everybody.
And I think that's correct.
Yeah.
And there's a point that I need to make too at this
Okay.
point too, and that is that when you go to art school, the first thing they do is they teach you technique. They teach you art theory. You figure out how to manipulate your pigments, your brushes. You learn how to capture light and use it to your advantage. There's a lot you can learn in terms of technique. And then they teach you composition. Composition at first will be kind of intuitive because we all have a sense of that. And then you learn some rules, and then you'll learn that a lot of people break those rules all the time. And you begin to see at some point in time that you have something to say as a person. And suddenly the composition is just a tool for you to say it. But what's interesting for the seniors when they go into this, they don't have to spend so much time on the technique, because the composition part, we've lived a full life. We have something to say. We have wisdom, we have insight, and so the technique's not so important. And you ask experienced artists, and they'll say, composition's 10 times more important than technique anyway. So you do the best you can on technique, but you embrace the composition. It's interesting stuff. It's when you get to the composition, suddenly your journey is taken off at a higher level, and you can't stop after that.
It's got a momentum.
It's got momentum. You're looking at the horizon and wondering what happens next. You can hardly wait.
And that brings expectation, and I think that really gives us joy in our heart to accomplish something like that.
I agree.
We see a certain fulfillment of it. And so I want to point out that everybody has a gift. And when you have this gift, and when you're frustrated with it, and you come to the end of your rope, what you do is you tie a knot and hang on. You know why? I'm going to tell you why. Because the best is yet to come, and what we want you to do is catch the spirit.